cabin.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Well, welcome back. This is our first video out here in the old time cave for a couple of videos now, at least two. Well, we did that fun excursion out to Yucaipa and visit my buddy Josh, and I hope that you've seen that video. I put a lot of effort into that one, and it was a lot of fun. So if you haven't yet, definitely go check it out. I made kind of a big deal about it. I know it's a commitment of time, but it's a fun one. You get to go along and see my travels, and we get to do some fun things and discuss some fun things about a particular article of clothing that was present for some pretty crazy stuff. So, yeah, if you're into Bonnie and Clyde history, I think most of people are that like history in general do gravitate towards Depression-era crime stories and actual history and accounts and events. So definitely do that. It's kind of remarkable, really. So with that being said, welcome back. It's nice. It's finally nice out here. It's sunny, and let's see, what's the temperature reading for today? Let's consult the weather bureau here. 56 degrees at 11:37. That's right. The rain is over, and now people are going back outside to make noise when I want to make a video. Oh well, it's doing business in the big city. Now, if I didn't want noise at all, I would move to the desert and live in a van or a tent. But I'm not going to do that. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to sit out here, enjoy some Peter Stokkebye Bullseye Flake and my Bulldog, which is definitely a very familiar pipe in my collection. You've seen it all so many times. And it looks like I'm about ready for some more of that. Yeah, it's getting towards the end. But we have something to share today. Yeah, we're continuing with our current lantern trend. I've acquired a few things. Very low cost, so that's why I kind of pulled the trigger on a few things, because it was going to cost me very little. That's right. That's right. So with that being said, let's see what we got going on up here. What are we sharing with you guys today? Well, first, we have kind of a stranger to the bench. I haven't burned it that often. That's right. It's my Acme Inspector. Dietz Acme Inspector, circa 1940-41. And this one I got from Lantern Joe, or the Antique Lantern. Oh, several years ago now. During the pandemic, I think. But see, it's good condition. It's kind of bright, aim it right at the camera. You kind of see how this thing can become a light, kind of a flashlight, if you will. And that's what Inspector lanterns were for the railroad. They were, well, a concentrated focused beam of light to a general area. That's why the shroud was there, and it has a mercury reflector. So this is definitely, well, this one's actually marked on the handle there. SPCO, yeah. Southern Pacific Railroad, that's right. So this one is a local piece from California or wherever the SP service, I don't know how it found its way into Connecticut, but some people retire and they take their things with them and they go to Connecticut, and then I brought it back to California. Anyways, they were all made in New York mostly, so yeah. So with that being said, this thing is a cool piece. I got it going, and it's been a fun lantern to have out here in the garage for many years now. But I don't want to do that. I don't want to blind you guys. I just kind of cock it to the side. Now, this was, of course, originally a bright tin finish. It's aged. It's got a beautiful dark brown type of patina going on. I think it's perfect. I love it. So, that's that. But we wanted to bring to the bench something a little different, something I've been wanting for a while now. I had one once, and you probably remember this lantern. Particular lantern, I had it. I have another version of this lantern that's a little later, from, I'd say 98, 99. It's a round tube. But we're talking about the old Dietz Royal. That's right, Dietz's No.2 hot blast lantern. And shout out to a good friend of mine out in Alabama. That would be Michael. If you're watching, Michael, shout out to you, man. Anyways, he turned me on to this listing on Etsy, and it was for 2 lanterns. It was for a CT Ham number 0 or O. What was it? Clipper. Just a regular number O clipper, 1900 era. 1905, right around there. But it came with another lantern. And it was a Dietz Royal square tube, single wire guard. And it's a little rough, but here it is. It's pretty much in as found condition. I've not done a thing to it yet. Now. There we go. Yeah. That's nice. Anyway, this little guy is kind of rough. As found. It's Royal. Yeah. Does it work? I don't know. We'll see why not. But I got a little bit of a deal on this because, as you can see, this air tube is a little damaged. And there's a little bit of flea bites, little pinholes in air tubes. Trying to see those. Sorry for the street sweeper. I always time it just right for those guys to come by. Drop my tool. Yeah. Anyway, so there we are. Royal number 2, or a Royal that's a number 2 size hot blast. Has a cork. This thing has seen some service. Yep. Old cork. A lot of dust, a lot of dirt. Look at that. This thing's a bit of a survivor. It's got some dents, some character. Yeah. It does. This wire guard is bent a little bit. But, leans a little bit like that. A little bit. Okay. A little bit. But it's all right. It's all right. We will fix. Yes. I'm not going to do too much to this lantern. I kind of like it the way it is, but it should get a little bit of attention. Yeah, it's definitely looked like it came out of an old mine or something. You never know where these things were used. There's really no laws of where they could be used or how to be used. It's definitely very likely it could have come out of some kind of work camp of sorts and, was discarded and put away and, hard to say. Now, I've proposed the idea that these were used in mines. And some of the experts have said, no, those tubulars were never used in mining. Well, I beg to differ. That's right, because I've seen photos of them in mines. Right. I have. Now, were they common? No. Now, did every miner have one like this? No. They usually used, early on they used candles. Or carbide eventually by the early 1900s. But or they had those little oil pots with the spout and the wick on their caps. They use those too. But anyhow, I have seen photos. Actually, I will throw in a photo so you can see what I'm talking about. But there's a miner pushing a cart, ore cart, in a what would be classified as a station, if you will, and it's hanging above him. It's easily a Dietz Royal or Victor, but judging by the size and where it's hanging from, I would say it's a Royal because of it just looks big. But anyhow, tubulars were in mines. They would use them in common areas, shaft stations, junctions, whatever, wherever they need a little bit more light just to light up an area. And eventually they were all electrified by the early 1900s. They started to electrify them, I'd say in the 30s, 40s. They would run electricity and light bulbs and stuff. But yeah, back in the 1890s and into early 1900s, then they were using tubulars for those common areas that I've seen in actual photos. It's funny because, like, you see a photograph in a mine and it looks, oh, like there's plenty of light. Well, yeah, they used a flash. But anyhow, it was very dark places. We understand this. But however, this was used. It definitely was slightly abused. It's missing its fuel cap, so they used a cork, which I think is cool. And I'm going to keep the cork, actually. I mean, eventually I will find a cap, but I don't mind the cork. It's actually kind of a fun detail. And the way this looks right now, it looks actually pretty neat. So I will give it a little bit of a wash. WD-40. Now, this globe is not original. Hold on a second. Let me... There. Now I'll release a little easier. So, with this stuff, with most of these tubular lanterns, to get the globe out, especially hot blast, you want to make sure, if it has a lift lever, you want to make sure that this is unlocked. Then your globe plate will float a little higher and it will tip. It makes it a lot easier to remove. But anyways, I'm going to remove the globe plate. There we go. Oh, could be a little pitted, but it's not bad. Yeah, it's seen a lot worse. Here's the burner cone. There you go. Brass, of course. Pretty dirty brass, but it'll get cleaned a little bit, not much. Okay, I got a wick. Yeah, pretty old wick. And a brass burner. It's original burner, I think. You tell me, what do you see there? Oh well, I'll insert a photo. I'll take a photo of it and put it in there. But from what I can see, it says R.E. Dietz SG&L Co., which would be appropriate. I think they were, well, they in the 90s they were definitely somewhat partners. Dietz had holdings with SG&L, so some of the members of the board with SG&L were on Dietz, vice versa. Interesting side fact: Charles Tapton Ham, president, creator, founder, CT Ham Lanterns. He was on the board of directors, I believe, with SG&L before he went off on his own and founded CT Ham. Anyway, and that's what CT Ham stands for, is Charles Tapton Ham. Pretty simple name for your company, just name it after yourself, right? Well, that's what Dietz was, and so many of these early tubular lantern companies, they just named them after the founder. It makes sense. Anyways, that's what we're dealing with. I think there might be a little bit of a chance of a pinhole leak in this bottom. Just kind of looks like it. I'm not going to say there is, but I'd say in all intents and purposes there's definitely going to be at least one or two pinholes in this because it is a little crusty. But the inside doesn't look that bad. It's kind of gray. It's not tinny or anything, but it definitely is not as bad as I have seen. So, what we're dealing with is a lot of dirt and some mild surface rust. Now, people might ask, how do little pinholes occur in your air tubes? Well, there's a few theories on that. And of course, moisture plays into the role. Is there a way to fix them? Well, yeah, there's a way to fix everything. However, it depends on how fastidious you are about restoration or leaving something in an arrested decay type of state, and how far you want to go trying to bring a 130-year-old lantern back to showroom condition, which in my opinion is impossible. And we also have to, I think it's important to accept certain things when we find them as they are, to a degree, to try and get those dents out. It's not going to happen. No. Some people can have a good frame with a bad fount and then just swap out the tubes for a good fountain, kind of, create a better example with spare parts and combine 2 lanterns to make one good one. And that's fine. People have done that. I've seen it done. And they make a usable example. But how those little holes develop in the air tubes, well, water gets trapped in there. Probably was kept in a damp climate and, maybe outdoors a little bit, or they left fuel. They left fuel for an extended amount of time in the fount, and water will collect and mingle with kerosene over a number of years, and then evaporation occurs and it finds its way up into the tubes, and it'll probably start rusting from the inside. Or somehow water got into the tubes and then stayed there and rusted in little points, and they started rusting through. But I mean, it's structurally sound. This is sound. This might be a little weakened because there's definitely a concentration of little rust holes around the dent, and that's probably how those occurred on this side. This is when it got dented, it probably opened up a little bit, and then moisture got in there and started to eat it from the inside out. But whatever the case is. Oh, patent dates. Well, can't really see them too clearly here. I do see something, but they're not legible yet, so I will have to... Oh, there's one up here, and it looks like they're all kind of stamped all over the place. Just FYI, guys, I know I've mentioned this before. Bears repeating because I have new subscribers that haven't done their homework by watching my other 400 videos. No hard feelings at all. I have a lot of content. Anyway, what was I going to say? Oh, patent dates. That's right. See, it's still the morning, and I'm just kind of not enough coffee. That's my problem. Not enough sleep or coffee or both, or not enough of one. Anyhow, patent dates. Now, if you see a list of patent dates, that means they're patent dates. They're not a manufacture date. Okay? Some of you seasoned veterans out there that watch my channels, you understand this. But I fell prey to this too. I fell prey to thinking that the most recent patent date would be more or less a ballpark figure of when the lantern was manufactured, okay? Now, patent dates, the list of patent dates are representative of different parts of the lantern, okay? The side lift, okay? The burner, the cone design, the fount design, the wire guard, I mean, all the pieces that comprise this thing, one of the patent dates for the square tubes, all that. Because every bit of this lantern was patented by R.E. Dietz. And they were very, very proactive about protecting those patents. And so with a lantern like this, your most recent patent date would be the most recent development. Now, we do understand that the single wire guard, as I call it, or orbital globe guard, hula hoop guard, whatever you want to call it, the single wire is definitely the most accepted amongst the community. It definitely was phased out right around 97, 98. I'd say 98. Yeah, 98 after the fire, after the Dietz fire at their factory in 97 actually. Then Dietz consumed SG&L in Syracuse, and then they eventually, dissolved that name, used their tooling, and got rid of, well, just made lanterns with the rest of their parts. And so that's why you still see some SG&L stuff as late as 98, 99, because Dietz was just making stuff with the rest of those parts because they weren't going to throw them away. No, of course not. So, actually, my Dietz crystal, my very first crystal, it's not a Dietz, it's SG&L. You've seen it, earlier videos. It lives up there somewhere. It's back there hiding, kind of, currently. Anyways, the crystal, the first one I ever bought, is an SG&L, and it has a last patent of 98. So that would definitely tell me that it was one of the last SG&L crystals manufactured that was under the SG&L name. I've seen some Dietz that had Dietz stamped on it with SG&L fount, or SG&L fount deck with a Dietz crystal marked fount, or whatever. Now, of course, you could say, well, the fount probably broke that matched it, and someone found one that worked. Well, that could be too, but who's to say exactly what kind of travels it had through time to the point that we find them. However, it is known that SG&L, when they were dissolved by Dietz just made stuff, just finished orders, and just got it all out of there and used their stamping. And they retooled and reopened in 1898. Now, 98, some of you have seen globes. This is Dietz 98, number 0 tubular. And that's cool because that was a big thing for them to reopen their factory. They moved to Syracuse. They eventually did rebuild their factory in New York, and they operated 2 factories at the time, up until the 1930s, I think. I think they closed the main plant around the 30s or something like that, and this had the Syracuse plant. More street sweeping, really? Anyways, I thought they only do one side of the street. Anyhow, this is right before that. This is before the Dietz fire in 97. Now, I've seen examples that have the circle cross logo underneath. Okay, the big one, the big Target circle cross logo that fills the center of the center ring there. Ladies and gentlemen, have your attention to the center ring. Sorry. Anyhow, the circle cross logo, from most people's understanding and perspective, survived only a couple of years. 93, 94, 95 at most. Okay, so by after 95, you weren't seeing the understamping on the fount from Dietz or SG&L. But some examples have surfaced that would indicate that they did a little longer. I just think they were using whatever parts they had left, as they were known to do. Anyhow, this would easily date within 96, 97. That's my understanding of this design, because the single wire guard design was definitely obsolete and not being manufactured, to my understanding, past 98. It's true. Now, some people say, well, we find some early Victors with 98 globes in it. I'm like, well, sure. Of course you will, because who's to say that someone didn't break the globe that it came with and put a 98 globe in it? Globes are interchangeable. That doesn't mean that it's an original globe. And sometimes we can say, oh, this looks like an original globe. All the boxes tick, match. Everything's perfect. Well, that's great. Then you can use that as an educated assumption that a globe is original to a frame. Now, I have one. And that would be my May 4th, 1869 patented globe that came in my May 4th, 1869 patented number 0 tubular R.E. Dietz that I've shared recently. And that has the Irwin burner. It has everything. All the bits are correct, and it looks like it was a survivor. So you can easily say that globe survived 150 years. It's a long time. It's a long time, friends. Ooh, yes, a lot of stuff. But anyways, getting back to the Royal. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to rinse this out with acetone, clean the fount out. I'm going to dust off some of the dust and dirt around the thing, and I'm going to give it a little bit of a WD-40 wash. And maybe just a little bit of green Scotch pad just to, smooth it out a little bit. There is metal. There's not a whole lot of surface rust, so this will actually be nice. I'm not going to go hard on the solder joints because I like to leave those a little on the dull side. There was a time where I polished those things. Not anymore. I like to bring them up to be a little lighter so they contrast with a dark finish, and I think that looks really good. But anyhow, This will definitely get a very mild cleaning, and it should be, burning within a respectable amount of time. So once I add the seal all, after this acetone cures and dries out, which is very fast, it evaporates quickly, then I should be ready to seal the fount. But that will be after I do a little exterior cleaning, and of course the bottom of the fount's going to get some scrubbing, which it needs, because that is a crusty critter. And I just think that if I don't, it's going to be more potential problems in the future. Anyways, that's the kind of rust you really want to kind of take care of. My bench is very uneven, so my objects like to rock. But anyhow, that's it. We got it. This is a nice Dietz Royal, 1890s, mid 1890s at least. And we'll do a fun cleanup on this. I'm looking forward to it. So, yeah. It's going to be a fun lantern. And, for those who understand, I had one like this at one time. And it did have the Circle Cross logo. It had all the elements that I really liked about it. However, it was cleaned at one time. And you know how I feel about over-cleaning lanterns. Anyways. It was a beautiful example. And now Mr. Cumberledge is the caretaker of it, and he actually got it to burn properly. I was having a hard time burning it properly, and once he got it, he realized he had a cone on another lantern that wasn't working properly, so he swapped cones with another lantern with the cone that came on this thing, and it works perfectly. So that both lanterns burn perfectly now, so it's actually was the right thing to do. But this one's pretty much unmolested, and I'm going to molest it just a little bit. But yeah, I think this will be a great piece, and the dent. That's not gonna. That doesn't bother me. Actually, I am really kind of not into dents in the air tubes. I can deal with dents in the fount and all that, but air tubes always bothered me. But this, I can accept this, especially since I paid very little for it. Yeah, it really kind of tells the story, and you don't really see it that much from the front. But if you turn it around, you definitely see this. But it tells a story. I'm just going to say that. It definitely does tell a story. But am I going to clean the globe? Maybe a little bit. But I might have a marked number O tubular globe for it. We'll see what happens, what I find roaming around in my collection of stuff. But anyhow, if not, I'll just leave it. It's fine. Okay, that's all for me for now. Hope you guys enjoyed this latest edition out here in the Time Cave with a lantern. Next week we will be doing something other than lantern content. So we will be exercising more collectibles and subject matter. So stay tuned till next week, and we'll see you again then. Have a great weekend, everybody, and we'll see you very soon. Bye-bye.